to you, Will, because
Yep.
you're the one keeping. Can you see everybody?
Yep. Okay, so I'll go with hands just because sometimes people get muted and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Anything to add for the agenda from last second editions? Silence. Okay. And so shall we, how about the minutes from last meeting? Shall we adopt them? In favor?
Sure, I move minutes.
Okay, seconder Maureen. And all in favor?
Aye. Oh,
Aye.
there we go.
Okay. Public comments, there's nothing there. So Steph, will people be able to delegate, come as delegations and so that's good to know. Yeah. So we can pass that on anytime we talk to people about that. Action items. So down on what page is that?
9.
Page 9 of 18. So
So I can start if you want.
Sorry?
You want me to go?
Yep.
So Denise is not here. Steph, send comparator community list to Denise. I did that. Councillor Nicholson, ask Metro Parks if park interpreter will come to Bowen Island to conduct a water conservation session for the salmon release.
I don't think that makes sense given the timing.
Yeah, but I understand. I got an email from the Fish and Wildlife Club saying that Coho Bon Voyage has been COVIDed, so it's canceled for this year. So
Yeah.
Bonnie, check in with Bowen Transition regarding heat pumps bulk buying on Pender Island. Ongoing?
Going.
Okay. And conversation topics, we'll call that ongoing. And Councillor Hocking, circulate Metro Vancouver video regarding DNA analysis.
Done.
okay,
Okay, that's all.
and future and ongoing actions.
That's for the future.
Yeah, Jeff and I are feeling guilty again.
Well, although will do the minutes indicate from our last meeting, there's something in our minutes in our last discussion in March about taking the water aspect off of our to-do list because the staff is working on it.
Yeah.
Good point. Thank you, Jeff.
I think we can strike that one.
Yep. Okay. So the next is number 5 on the agenda. Council referrals. The Climate Action Renewal Incentive Program. Bonnie's in charge with Carla involved too. And a nice link to the report you folks did. Thank you.
Yeah. Just want to thank Carla for getting that together this year and submitting to the province. Thank you, Carla. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. It was actually a lot simpler this year. It was easier to complete, a lot less onerous, and didn't get to have the normal conversations we usually do within ECAAC to put it together, but it's also nice that it was less work. So, so I guess, I don't know if you want me to talk about this, but it's already gone to council and the report has been submitted to the province. And it looks like we're getting a grant back of around $4,600. We also still have $2,000 left from the 2018 grant. So those are the funds we need to disperse. I know Bonnie had talked a little bit to some groups that might be interested in getting some of the funding. I don't know if anyone else has some ideas as well, or.
Yeah, because I was sort of thinking, I know Councillor Nicholson also brought up at the last council meeting, the open council meeting, there was a group that came forward, the NERPs, who are putting up some kiosks. They're doing 2 initially and then more. There's sort of a first phase and a second phase. There's 8 ideally in the first phase, and then the second phase would be more sort of almost like a little emergency hub. But Councillor Nicholson just brought up to that group that there was some money available potentially for solar powers on these kiosks, as they want to maybe use them as little charging stations in the case of an emergency. I just followed up with that, can shed a little bit of light. I talked to Jen McGowan, our emergency coordinator, and you know, I was sort of thinking, well, you know, maybe phase 2, or when the actual power was going to be installed, isn't going to happen until maybe next year. But, you know, there's no set time. We can put the solar panels, they could put the solar panels on the first 2 that are going up this year, and then they'll be ready. That is a potential. She said that $2,000, $2,500 would go a long way in putting those solar panels on at least the first two, and maybe there'll be 3 that don't require any environmental assessments in order to be erected.
Where will they be, Bonnie?
Maybe one of the councillors, they're dispersed all over the island. So maybe does one of the councillors want to speak to that?
I
Have
speak
to,
to it.
well, Maureen, you go.
Yeah, the first 2 will be at Queen Charlotte Heights and Miller Road. There is another one that's in the planning stages, but it's a slightly separate project for Eagle Cliff. They actually started things off. And to be honest, I can't recall offhand, but I have the file, remarkably. So that this project was funded through the Community Foundation's Resiliency Fund, and it received every penny that they asked for, which was unusual and an indication of just, you know, how strongly it was supported. Okay, I have the file. Where is it? Apologies. The intention is to spread the kiosks throughout the island so that each community has a kiosk locally. The grant application actually doesn't go into the details of where they'll be sited, but they did provide that with, it must have been an attachment to the honorarium. So the first 2, Miller Road, Queen Charlotte Heights, with Eagle Cliff in the background.
And so just to make sure all the committee members know, Bonnie, can you tell us what NERP is?
Neighborhood Emergency
Response program.
Response, program.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's our great neighborhood organizations, grassroots.
Yeah.
Great energy, lots of eager volunteers, and lots of hours they're spending getting this together.
And they've been active quite a bit in COVID times too.
I think I'd like to, I don't know, we could use our putting our hand up function, or just call out, I'm not sure. But I think, you know, we've got $4,600 and $2,000 left from last year. So we got, you know, $6,500, which is a fair chunk of money. I think it would be useful. Well, I think the folks who are doing this NERP project are working on, you know, what a budget would look like and so on. I think it would be good to have a formal proposal so we could have a look at that and we could actually all see where the potential locations are and, you know, how much it might cost and so on. But it would be good for us to think of some other ideas as well. I mean, $6,500 is it's a fair amount of money. Now we looked at a couple of years ago, Carla can help on this. We looked at putting solar panels on the bike and scooter shed so that people could plug in their bikes, electric bikes or electric scooters. And it costs too much money because, Carla, help us here. We don't need to go into the details now, but that was one of the interesting ones we didn't have enough money for. But it sort of seems to me that we need to take this seriously and come up with a few options and then, you know, have a look at them at the next meeting, perhaps.
Bonny? Oh, sorry, David. Bonny?
Yeah, I agree. I would love, this is just my personal opinion as I'm a voting member, just putting it out there to the group. I love the idea of diversifying a bit. I love the idea of the solar panels. And as I say, Jen was saying, you know, $2,000, $2,500 could go a long way. I would like to also, we've done, not saying that solar panels are fantastic, but I would like to diversify in the money that we do a lot, because there's so many different aspects to climate action, as was demonstrated in our climate action strategy. So we have put solar panels on the Cove Commons, you know, this solar power project. We did get the food resiliency group involved and gave them some funds last year, so that was great. But I have a couple of other ideas. I don't know if you'd like to hear them, but so I know that we really look at giving money out to community groups, and that's great. And, you know, so that's how it should be, your community initiatives. There is a bunch of people that I've been working with over the years that are marine focused, and Fiona Beattie is really involved with this one particular group. I mean, she has been doing a lot of eelgrass planting. Eelgrass, of course, is a very important carbon sequester, carbon sequestering organism plant, sea plant. And, you know, it just, I would love to highlight something marine through our dispersal of funds. Yeah, because, you know, that is all part of the climate action. So the Sea Change Marine Conservation Society is a group that did all our eelgrass mapping for us. They've done eelgrass mapping twice for us. The last round was working with Islands Trust, and they did all the polygon mapping, so very, very good mapping. They've been around since 1998, I believe, and very reputable organization. They are looking at doing 2 projects in Mannion Bay. And I bring up Mannion Bay because it is a council priority as well, named as one of the strategic priorities or part of a priority. So one, they're looking at doing some eelgrass planting in August or September in Mannion Bay. They did some in Tunstall last year. And they want to do some marine debris cleanup to try to expand the habitat of the eelgrass that's there growing. So I believe that some funds could help with the cleanup and the planting. They did receive some grant funds, so they're not looking for a lot. Even $1,000 would help. Another project that they've got funding for, almost all except for maybe some public education materials, is for a midline float system for mooring buoys. And mooring buoys, I could speak for 2 hours on mooring buoys and how I feel that they are a cancer within our waterways, and the damage that they do scouring the sea floor is very, it's dramatic. It's dramatic. So they're looking at this new system where there's a midline float, so you don't get the slack on the sea floor, you don't get the scouring. So they have got the funding, although they don't have enough money for the public education, or they could really use it for public education. They've got a little bit of money for that. So those are 2 projects. I'd be happy to come back next meeting if the committee wishes with a bit more information. but they're not looking for a lot of money, maybe, you know, $1,000 for the eelgrass, maybe $2,000 for the midline floats. So those are two other potential projects. And another one is, and I haven't talked to the food resiliency group, but I know that they're, I think they did receive some grant funding though. So that's another group that's really active right now on the island. So that's my ideas.
So I've seen hands from Maureen and Carla. I think Carla was first.
I just wanted to respond to what David was asking about before, just about the solar panels for the bike barn. So they got about $4,000 from us in 2017. And the reason the project wasn't completed was because of the power. The hydro pole is in the wrong spot. So they have to move a hydro pole. It's something completely like out of our control. And it should be in the budget for next year to complete the project. I just wanted to say though, that the $4,000 that we gave them, that was going to cover the solar panels as far as I know. So I think that is, you know, a good chunk of change for something like that. Because I think that was kind of the point that you were making, that maybe it wasn't enough money for solar panels.
I'm trying to remember, I knew that we ran out of money, but we never gave them the money because it would have cost much, right? Because of the pole issue.
No, we did give them money in 2017. It was last year we were thinking about giving them more money, but we didn't give them more money because we thought it should come out of the budget, like just the you know, municipal budget to finish the project.
I'm sorry, I'm
funds?
not remembering. We gave them the money then for what? Because there are no solar panels on that. Like what?
And who is the we?
Yeah, who's the we?
There's no we involved here. This is a municipal project.
Like ECAAC decided that that the CARIP funds should be used towards purchasing the solar panels.
As a municipal project.
What's that?
As a municipal project. Because there's no nonprofit organization involved in the bike barn.
I don't know. I wasn't actually, I was on mat leave when decided to give the funds for the.
Okay, Carla. It's just the money never was dispersed. It should be sitting somewhere.
Yeah.
And the contact person involved in this is our building inspector.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's basically it.
So is there any action our committee needs to do on this? On the solar panel issue? I think not.
I mean, for the bike barn, so, I mean, there was some money allocated, you know, hypothetically, it's sitting, waiting. It is quite an expensive project. We figure maybe 12K altogether. So it is something that, as Councillor Nicholson said, it's more a municipal capital project. I mean, could be looked at that way. Yeah, so I mean, it's something that maybe we could budget for in capital for next year. We do have some money sitting there for it. I don't know how the committee feels, but the money is in a coffer somewhere. It's been allocated for that initiative, and we were looking at putting in the rest of the money to complete the capital project, but that didn't happen this year.
Okay. So no action from us.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Maureen, you had your hand up and have been very patient. Thank you.
Well, I did butt in. Sorry. With this fund, it sort of proceeded informally over the years, and I agree with David that we need to kind of get more serious around it. And I also think that we need to cast our net more widely and encourage nonprofit community groups to actually make the application. I don't think Bonny should have to, check in with nonprofits and figure out what we can do for them. I think that people need to be making proposals to the CARIP fund and outlining what they want to do and what kind of money they are looking for. We probably as a committee need to establish some guidelines about the kinds of projects that are within scope and what the maximum amount of money per project we'd be prepared to provide. And off the top of my head, and I'm truly am making this up, you know, if we've got $6,600 odd over and above the bike barn money, we could fund 6 nonprofit organizations at $1,000 a piece. And I think that would be good. And it also would raise awareness of this fund in the community, that there actually is money available for climate action projects.
Yeah.
Excellent point. So I think that might be one of the work tasks for us this year is develop criteria and maybe an outline communication plan that we can pass on to the communication folks.
Yeah, I agree, Will. I think that's a task. We're not going to do it tonight, but we need to have a subcommittee, a couple of people get together and sort of scope out what that might look like.
And I guess the question about that that task of getting the criteria pounded out, is that something that we can do in time for grants this year? You know, I'm just seeing Bonny has some great ideas that have merit. Will we have to wait until we have our criteria before we follow those, or will we consider Bonny's suggestions based on the way we've been doing things, but realizing this is the last time we're going to think about grants without those criteria and without groups asking, as Maureen was suggesting? Just asking.
Yeah,
David?
happy to speak on that. I really like Bonny's ideas. I think they'd be great. I love the idea of planting the eelgrass and so on. But I think Maureen's approach is actually appropriate. I don't think it should be too hard for us to set out the criteria. I mean, criteria number 1 is that whatever the action is, it should support elements of the climate action strategy. So it should go find some piece of the climate action strategy and say, here's how we're supporting that strategy. Beyond that, I'm sure there's more considerations that I'm just not familiar with, sort of setting up things like this. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Maureen, you're more familiar. I'm not. But if we have a couple of people could volunteer who know how to do this, I'm not sure if anybody has time or knows how to do it, has some experience with it, we could have that for the next meeting and then put it out for proposals. But I guess what Bonny is saying is they need to plant it this summer. So I see what you're saying, Will.
Yep. So Bonny, do you have, I'm going to let Carla speak. I'm always blabbing.
Just a suggestion, but we still have the $2,000 from last year. Maybe we could go ahead and allocate that just because it's been sitting there already for a year. And then we can do this new ask for proposals for the funds from this last year.
Nice idea.
That's a great idea.
Good idea.
Any comments from other members on that suggestion?
Thumbs up.
Yeah, me too. Yep. I think Bonny should go to those folks and ask them for a proposal. So we still have something. Okay, not just, hey, you're going to go plant some eelgrass somewhere. Here's what we're going to do. Here's when we're going to do it by, and all that sort of stuff. Here's how much it would cost. And then we could agree at the next meeting, or we could do it over email if we had to.
Yep. Don?
I think I'm just concerned that there's some process in place as opposed to us just giving money out to anybody that we want to. So I'm kind of with Maureen that there should be a process. There should be, an RFP of some sort. Even if the money's sitting there, I don't know that we just give it without a request.
I hear you, Don, and I'm thinking, the Canadian compromise is to work quickly on even a draft set of criteria that we can get out quickly, and then follow that with approaching some or communicating with some of the community groups like the Sea Change Marine Conservation Society to say we've got some money. Here are the criteria. Can you give us a proposal?
Yeah, and that works. I mean, you know, the model to follow is what's happening with the federal government, provincial or municipal, in terms of how everybody's reacted to support the not-for-profit sector with extra funding. It's happened fairly quickly, but there's still a process. We're making this money available. We'd like to know what your ideas are. Send your submission to us by this date, and we'll get back to you. And the turnaround is incredibly quick, but there's a process.
Yep. Michaela, do you have anything to add? I see you, Maureen.
Yeah. Me?
No, I'm asking Michaela and just acknowledging I see your.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm still trying to get used to this. I think having a process is how it should be, and I'm willing to help with that. I wouldn't say that I have experience. I have filled in a few of those things, so I can know kind of the questions that they ask and the layout. But I'm sure there's someone that can sort of take the helm and that I can work with. So if anybody else is willing.
Any other takers? I think Michaela and I live by RFPs and proposals, so maybe we can work together on that. Anybody else? Bonnie, if you want to advise at all, would be pleased to get your input, because I think you make some of these things happen.
Well, I think, there are some other grants being allocated, so there is some framework that we have, and Maureen just sent out the innovation grant criteria. So we do have, the municipality gives out a lot of grants, so there are some criteria that we can pull from. But if Michaela and Will, if you're willing to come up with sort of brainstorm and come up with some criteria, I'd be happy to look at it and see how it compares with some other municipal type criteria that has been established and has worked.
Yep. And Jeff,
I'm happy to help if you need some.
Jeff?
I was going to say I'm happy to help too, but I wasn't sure whether we were talking about the criteria or the application, or is that the same thing?
Developing the criteria.
Yeah, sure. Sounds like we got a bunch of volunteers, and Dawn, you did too as well. So you guys can decide how many folks you'd like contributing to this. So, Dawn,
was your hand up as a jumping off the ice flow into the cold waters too?
No, I'm happy to help if I can.
Okay.
And I think, in the note that Maureen just sent is very helpful.
Great. Well, that'll be the start. Yep, Maureen?
Yeah, what I just sent is we needed to initiate an innovation grant program in support of Communities in Bloom. And this was launched on the 26th of April. And we gave folks a 1-month deadline to apply. And then the winners were notified in June. So the timelines were really short. Yep. The application form was super simple. And I mean, you could probably take this copy and just plug in the climate action elements rather than the beautification elements. I think it'd be pretty simple.
Yep.
The question, well, or this could be for Bonnie or Carla. When does the 4,600 come in this year for the CARIP money? Does that set the timeline?
I'm not sure, but I think we could probably disperse the funds at any time. I mean, there is that money sitting there that was for the bike barn anyways. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there's that that pot of money could probably be pulled from and put back. Do you know what I mean?
Sounds good.
It's a good question because, you know, in a regular year, we would see that money's fairly soon, but I don't know when it's coming in. So it's a good question. Yeah. But
I just had
I agree with you.
Carla?
I just had a suggestion for anyone who is going to work on, you know, the criteria or the application. I would just pull up the CARIP survey. It's posted to our website, and you can just find all the wording in there about what the grant money is supposed to be used for.
Yep.
And I think also one thing I wanted to mention too, in terms of criteria, what we've chosen in the past years is we always wanted projects that were visible a little bit. I think, you know, that the community would definitely be aware of.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that really.
Yeah, but I don't know if necessarily, and that's just, I don't necessarily think that they all have to be visible. I think they're probably, if they're not, because there's lots of great initiatives, I think, and we'll probably get, you know, maybe we'll get some really good ideas that they might not be front and center like a solar panel, right? So yeah, we'll see, but you know, if they're not visible, then that's where we need to do some public education. And if it fits with the climate action strategy, I think that's really good right there, checking to see that the projects do fit within the strategy.
All right. Any more discussion?
Well, so the NERP folks, they'll just have to make their case when the application comes out. So that one's just for info now as a possibility.
Okay. So
can I just ask for a bit of clarity then? The funds from 2018, the $2,000 that we have, would the committee like to see the proposal? Is that what I got from the community, from the discussion that just happened? I just need some clarity if I should ask the sea change people to put together a proposal, or do you want to just wait and have the criteria and allot all them?
I think it would be nasty to a group to ask them to apply before the criteria are there, so they don't know how they're going to be judged. Or my thought, Bonnie, is we'd have to move quickly to keep the window that the sea change people have for planting, so that it will happen. I'm willing to move quickly on that. I think we all are.
Just so you know,
yeah,
it will happen without the money. It's just that with the money, what could happen is a little bit more debris removal, and the habitat, potential habitat of the eelgrass could be expanded. So they have the money to do the planting. It would just be the amount of debris removal that could take place.
Yeah.
That would be the difference. So just so you know that it will happen without our money, but the money would help.
But and it would make it a better project. And Mannion Bay is kind of the having just completed the Marine Atlas for Bowen Island. Mannion Bay is the place where more Bowen Islanders interact with the marine environment than any other place. So I think that's an ideal spot for restoration work to be done.
Well, one more comment, if I may. I do think that the criteria should be set out in short order to evaluate any kind of earlier or quick projects that we might want to consider. I think it's great that there is an application process for a grant, but because there's different tranches or bits of money that the CARIP represents, I personally wouldn't have any problem saying that we could kind of do a direct award, provided it fits the criteria, say for $2,000 worth, which might represent the 2018. And that the $4,600 for 2020 or 2019 or whatever years we're talking about here is part of the, you know, competitive grant application or what have you. So, I mean, if it means that, because I think we've got these marine projects that we think have merit and they're kind of already in the hopper, that might be kind of the justification or the rationale for some kind of initial direct awards if we think it's important to get those ones going in a timeline that's quicker than we could do with soliciting broader applications.
Yep. Any comments on that, on Jeff's point?
So could we just go ahead and make a recommendation to council that the remaining CARIP funds from 2018 be awarded to Sea Change for the mooring buoy and sorry, what was it? Mooring buoy, debris removal and eelgrass planting project? I think they're gonna want to make an educational video even too.
David?
I mean, I'd love to, but for us to make a decision without even seeing a proposal, I just think is inappropriate. Like Dom was really making that point earlier, and much as I at first sort of thought, yeah, let's use the old money for this quick project. I think we should do it properly.
And they're totally willing to share the proposal. It's really well developed, and it was more sort of, I just kind of want to bring it up just to see the after, but they definitely, we could have that for next meeting.
Sure.
For the committee.
Maureen, you were going to say something too?
I agree with David. We've never simply handed over money in the past.
Yep.
We've always had back and forth with the people that we identified as potential recipients of these funds.
Okay. McKaylee, I saw your hand up.
I just wanted to make sure that we knew the timeline for the criteria. I'm imagining that the ECAAC committee is going to want to take a look at it after we develop something. So we're still looking at, at least a month, 6 weeks out from having that done.
We could
Is
share it through email.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah, I think this is something urgent enough that we can share it by email and get it done before the next meeting.
Yeah.
It also would be a good idea to take a look again at our committee's terms of reference, the kinds of things we're supposed to be doing as a committee.
Yeah.
And you've got some built-in criteria there as well.
Excellent. Shall we move on? We've got a committee struck of Dawn, let's see, McKaylee, me, and Jeff. And so I think McKaylee's already pointed out some things on the chat that she's in the field for the next week. So let's get in touch this week, tomorrow or something like that. And with Maureen's, I think she sent us the beginning of a template, so I think we can move quickly. All right. Council referrals. Excerpt from the May 25th, 2020 regular council meeting.
That's just documents to support the conversation you just had.
Okay.
So your next item would be
Climate action strategy.
Sure.
David.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say here other than that council adopted it, and so we now have a climate action strategy. Bonny is going to give it the look and feel of the of municipal action plans, and then so our next work would be then getting it out to the public. But one interesting way of getting it out to the public would be asking for proposals for to work towards it through the CARIP funds.
Yep.
That's great. Good. Yeah, just so you know, Janet is desktoping we've just been so busy with EOC stuff. And so Janet is helping Sophie, our communications coordinator, and it will have a really nice Bowen brand look to it.
Okay. Any more discussion? So I guess the next one is Bonnie on the work plan.
Steph, would you be able to share that? Or, I mean, it's really, I mean, the work plan's there. It's always sort of there. I don't know if we really need to go over it. I adjusted it according to our previous discussions. I went to council for information. So I think, you know, Jeff's point early in the meeting was good about the water that we're.
Are you seeing the work plan now?
Yeah. So.
It's all in the agenda. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. It's like
Yeah.
clicking the link in the agenda.
That's right. So I don't know if, you know, if we want to go through it or not. I mean, things have kind of been going a little bit slow in some respects just because of the situation, but you know, the on island composting is moving forward. Carla's doing great work on that. The water master planning, the staff level is progressing to some extent. We're working on the CARIP, so that's under the climate action part of the work plan. We're going to be working on updating the energy and emissions community energy emissions plan. So that's going to happen in the fall.
Will we be working again with the Community Energy Association, Bonnie?
That's the intent. Yeah. However, I think, you know, just about the look of it, like, again, it will be a collaborative effort with them, but we do belong, we pay, you know, so we're part of that circle. Yeah.
Will Gail Littlejohn be involved?
As far as I know, and also our new CAO is has worked with Dale quite a bit in the past, which was a good connection. So I believe Dale's still really active with the CEA, Community Energy Association.
Thank you.
I could just add one little piece here is one of the steps that I took in working on our climate action plan was to run it by Dale. So Dale, and he actually suggested one of the ideas, and I can't remember what it was. It might have been the e-bike for staff. I can't remember. But anyway, so he's had a look at it and liked it a lot.
Great.
So
So,
go ahead, Bonnie.
yeah, so I'll go through it again, and just if there's anything that I'll update it on, we'll have an updated version next meeting of the work plan.
Okay.
If there's anything to update on it. Yeah.
Yep. And sometime I think would be wise soon to have a little discussion about what the priorities are from the municipality's point of view of what parts of that work plan are the most important tasks to be done this year. Because you know, there's more tasks than we'll probably succeed in doing. So. Okay. Any more discussion? Let's move on. Updates. Bonnie, you're on again, 7.1, staff update. Motorized vehicles on Mount Gardner. Yikes.
Bonnie?
At the April 27th open council meeting, council passed a resolution that asked asked staff to create a letter that would be signed and sent to Tom Blackbird, the recreation officer with Forest Lands Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development. And that stated their stance on prohibition of motorized vehicles on Mount Gardner. It is coming back to council again on Monday, but just so you know that the letter is coming back to council on Monday for them to look at it. But yeah, it's the resolution was unanimous at the April 27th meeting. So that's about all I'd like to share. I don't, just so you're aware that it is on the council agenda as well as an item on Monday's meeting.
Okay. Wood fiber LNG then.
Yeah, so wood fiber LNG working group was reconvened to look at the proposal extension for the environmental certificate that wood fiber LNG had applied for through the province. And as I was part of the technical working group in 2015, I did do some comments for them and submitted to the Environmental Assessment Office. Council did pass a resolution as well that they continued to oppose the project. So just wanted to let the committee know that that was, there were 2 members of council opposed to that, but it did pass.
Okay.
That resolution.
All right. So the next is new business. Talking about Bowen Island's Marine Atlas that was developed by Bob Turner, Len Geldy, and myself. And Bonnie's asked me to talk about it. So one of the things I have is a slideshow that we did at our book launch that was done on Zoom. And so Bonnie, would you like, Bonnie?
You can,
You want
I
me to-
have enabled you to share it.
Okay.
Screen share if you'd like, yeah.
Okay, I will give it a try. Hold on to your hats, folks. Oh, where is it? There it is.
Great.
Well done.
So here it is. Exploring Bowen's Marine World, a Marine Atlas of Nuclealicum, Bowen Island. And by Len, Will, and Bob. And so here's the team. Susan Monroe was our editor and one of the nicest and gentlest editors I've ever dealt with. And Owen Plowman was the money guy. He went and raised money, and I'll talk to you about the money. Our model was the Hornby Island Marine Conservation Atlas. And one of the board members of the Bowen Conservancy came across that, and they asked the Marine Atlas, the folks from Hornby to come and talk to us. And so one of the people, Glenn, and I can't remember his last name, came and talked to a bunch of us. And we had a number of meetings. The core group was Bob, Len, and I, with Owen, the man in the blue check shirt on the bottom right. And what we wanted to do was get community knowledge from the knowledgeable people on Bowen. So the salmon hatchery folks, the birders, Adam Taylor and other scuba divers. We did a bunch of research, and the Atlas features great photos. Len, Mary, and Adam did some great photos. Bob and I did a bunch of photos as well. And the money raised was all Bowen Island, and it was the Bowen Island Community Foundation gave us our first bit of money. Islanders donated at some of our public meetings, and the Nagan Page Family Fund, a local Bowen Island family, contributed. And then the Sitka Foundation gave us half, the big half. So all locally funded. And we continually got input from the community. At BowFest, we had a special table there showing people different aspects of the marine world. And we also had this map where people could share their marine life sightings and adventures. We had an open house at Bix where we had the draft atlas up for people to view and review and comment on. Got lots of good input. Lots more community input from old timers and newcomers. And the atlas was reviewed by students as well. This is the entire student body of Island Pacific School. And so we had a day there talking to them. They reviewed it and gave us plenty of good input about what kids are interested in. Then we went into editing with Susan doing a magnificent job of catching all the little faux pas that the writers did. And then we went to expert reviews. So we approached scientists in different fields to review what we'd done and comment on the accuracy and what was important. And voila, we had the Marine Atlas. So let's have a quick look inside. So first of all, the setting, whoops. Until recently, Bowen was in the middle of Howe Sound, which was an industrial site. So the big whales had been hunted to local extinction in the early 1900s. Mines and pulp mills were dumping lots of effluent. And so the marine life around Bowen was sparse and struggling. But then in recent years, we started to have a renaissance of life. Big schools of anchovies, that's the little silver fish on the left, and herring were seen often, and that attracted dolphins and whales and all kinds of other marine life. Now, the reason that this renaissance came was communities and Bowen Islanders and federal and provincial governments worked hard to clean up the pollution of Howe Sound. But here's the paraphrase from one of our technical advisors, Alejandro Frid. Environmental recovery will not be a return to what it was. That's now gone. With hard work, we can learn about what we still have and support a resilient ecosystem that can absorb predicted disturbances and maintain ecological functions. So the Atlas has several themes: what we have, where to find it, ecological relationships, spatial relationships, and why these things are important. And there's, if you look there on the right, you'll see Bonny's mooring chains. Those two ships. There's the red one has the anchor chain that is scouring the eelgrass, and then you have the mid water floats that keep the chain from scouring the eelgrass. And we highlighted the special people around Bowen and Howe Sound that are doing real work to improve the natural marine environment. The atlas has sections called storm warnings throughout the atlas that highlight threats to marine environment, and lighthouses that highlight good news stories about marine stewardship initiatives. Also, in that throughout, there are learn more sections that highlight good references for diving deeper. So the atlas has 56 pages, 21 chapters. We'll have a quick look through. Right near the front, we feature the Squamish Nation and their relationship with the land and water around Howe Sound. And so we highlighted the unceded territory of the Squamish Nation and highlighted the strong evidence that that Squamish people were here for thousands of years. An archaeological study in the 1970s around Howe Sound found 10 campsites and village sites on Bowen. And you know, one of the stories you hear from people is that there's no sign that First Nations really use this island. And they're a proud nation, and they've been sharing with Bowen Island their culture. Here's one of their canoes coming into the Voices in the Sound festival in, I think it was 2016. So plants are the base of the food chain. So we have a lot of chapters on plants. Of course, phytoplankton is a big one. And here's a photo of plankton. There's big creatures in there, copepods and other things that are eating the algae. The algae is the phytoplankton are the smaller items there. Even though the phytoplankton are too small to see with the naked eye, we can see them in the summer in the big blooms. So we have a red tide on the left and a turquoise sea from cochleophore phytoplankton. Eelgrass, big important one. Bonnie's already mentioned it. If you look on the map, you can see the locations where eelgrass has been noted. And so the biggest places are Tunstall Bay and Mannion Bay. And so that's where the Seek Change group have been working to enhance that habitat. Here's some shots of eelgrass. We usually see it washed up on the beach in small bits or in big windrows after a storm. And here it is. Here's a diver's eye view of it. And interestingly, most marine creatures don't eat the leaves of eelgrass. They eat this stuff on it. This is a biofilm of bacteria, algae, and fungi that coats the leaves, and creatures like baby salmon and prawns come along and graze off of that. And eelgrass is part of the baby salmon highway. So eelgrass is where, after baby salmon leave the streams that they've hatched in, they live in the eelgrass beds, sheltering from the bigger fish and munching up on all the food there. Forage fish are another big one. Little silverfish. This is herring. And they're plankton eaters. So another part of the food chain. And this is anchovy, which until recently haven't been seen often in Howe Sound, but now we're seeing them every year. And those fish attract predators. And here we have a harbor seal cruising through for a meal. The sea lions and orca and even the big humpback whales come to feed on these guys. We also featured places such as beaches, nearshore forests, estuaries, rocky shores and islets, deep waters, glass sponge reefs, and creatures, such as the salmon. Salmon are woven into the very fabric of West Coast ecology and culture, and so we couldn't leave them out. And so here's a map showing the places where the adult salmon feed offshore and the places where salmon are stocked or live as babies. Marine birds, biggest chapter in the book. Maps showing where the local birders have identified the locations where they can be observed. And two groups, year-round species, year-round residents, and fall, spring and winter migrants that come in big flocks, often feeding on the mussels that are in the waters. And you can't forget the seals and sea lions. So here's the harbor seal and the California sea lion. Those are featured in the atlas. And of course, the whales and dolphins. So we've got the Bigg's killer whale, which is the transient killer whale that eats other mammals. So it eats the seals, sea lions, and even the big baleen whales. And of course, you have the humpback whales. And just a little point, Bob Turner took this picture, and one of those people in the kayak, in those kayaks, is a guide, and he is so embarrassed that that happened. They should never have been that close to a whale. And then the last chapter is the view ahead, and this is how to connect with agencies and groups that are doing citizen science, education, and conservation around Bowen Island. And one example is the Sea Change Marine Conservation Society. And these are Bowen Islanders working with Fiona Beattie, who's the Bowen Islander standing at the back. And they're preparing eelgrass for transplant so that the baby salmon highway will be going strong around Bowen. And that's the atlas. We've printed 300 of these, really great quality, and they're sold out. So we're into a second printing. So that's it. I'm not sure how I unshare my. You're stuck, everyone. Oh.
Well, while we're stuck, well, that's really fantastic. What great work. You know, back many, many years ago, when I was at the Suzuki Foundation, we were looking at setting up a marine conservation program. And the tricky part is the ocean either looks perfect and lovely, where, you know, okay, it's a nice sunny day, you just want to go for a swim or get out in a boat, or it looks scary because it's a big winter storm, but you don't know what's underneath. It's just a giant mystery. And it's really wonderful to be able to pull that apart like that and show us how the pieces are all connected. So thank you so much. It's really, really, really good work.
All right, thank you. So we got, come on. Okay.
Well,
Yep. So information items. We have the CEEP plan action, 2016 actions that you shared with us, Steph.
they're just there for reference.
Yep.
Yep.
And some excerpts from the council meeting of April 27th. So that's it. We've got next meeting to be announced. I think that we're in the hands of municipal staff on this one. I think you're busy and doing lots of things, and I think we're on an as needed basis, aren't we?
Yep, council, not staff.
So that will come.
Yeah.
And any final things to say before we adjourn? I'm going to say it's great to see all you folks again. I missed you.
Can-
That's
can-
lovely.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's really great too. I just wanted to ask for clarity. If I do get someone from Sea Change, they would be totally willing to come and present and also provide a hard copy of a proposal. Would that be something then we would do just a poll for a meeting? Because it still is related to the CARIP, it's still related to the council direction to discuss allocation of the CARIP funds.
I like
Does
that.
that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm always, I'm still a newbie at chairing, so do we need a motion to adjourn, or do we just all touch our screens and tell them to leave the meeting?
We do need a motion. I move adjournment.
We don't need a, oh, okay.
Okay,
We don't? Steph?
No,
Okay.
We're
but
done.
you can.
Thank you, Will. Thank you for your presentation. It was great.
Thanks, everybody.
It was great.
Thank you.
Okay, see
Have a
you all.
good night.
Bye.
bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.